true that you're telling me that God has told you that you cannot eat of one of these trees in this beautiful garden? How repressive can you get? Said he. Why, he said, God knows that the day you eat of that tree, you'll be just like he is, knowing good and evil. And it said, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desired to make one wise, she took thereof and did eat, and gave to her husband, and he did eat. Temptation is always plausible. Do this and you'll better yourself. I'll take a very common illustration. You're working for a large corporation and your supervisor says, now listen, it isn't necessary for the big boss to know that we're doing this. What you have to do is to trim your report in this and this and this way. That way it'll be better received when it goes upstairs. And all of us will look better. Now, make your report that way. Now, what he's asking you to do is to be just a little bit dishonest and report the facts a little different. There was a large corporation that had a big shakeup recently, as some of you read in your newspapers, because the officials of this company in one of the foreign country operations had hiked the reports of items sold. They had inflated their reports so as to look good. You remember reading that? Well, the whole gang of them got fired, of course, and the company had a big shakeup. But it sounds so plausible when it's offered. Now, just do this little bit, and all of us will be better off. Well, beware of the plausibility of Satan's temptations. Beware of the plausibility of Satan's temptations. It always is presented to be pleasant and good and something that will better you. But anything you do that is against the law and the will of God, that disobeys the word of God, and that goes against the leading of the Holy Spirit, anything you do that disobeys God is going to have a bitter end to it. There's a way that seemeth right unto a man, the end thereof are the ways of death, said Solomon. All of us have been on a journey at some point or other, and we went down a road that seemed to be a fine, pleasant road. Way back there had been a fork in the road, you remember? And momentarily you hesitated, and then you said, well, this road is a broad, well-paved road. I think that must be the one. And so you turned and went along the broad, well-paved road. Soon, however, it began to be a little more narrow and rougher, and then all of a sudden you came to some barricades, and it said, bridge out, road closed. Now, it seemed all right back there at the fork of the road, didn't it? Broad and well paved. But before you had gone very far, you realized that you were on the wrong road. Well, that's the way temptation is for you and for me. We'll talk about temptation a little more in detail when we get over to chapter 7, I think. But right now, stop on this point to say, always hold suspect Satan's suggestions that seem plausible. Second, temptation is always a disappointment. Verses 4 and 5. Her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Always, but there are no radiantly happy, unsaved old people. An unsaved old person is almost routinely unhappy. Have you noticed that? The only way to grow old beautifully is to have faith in Almighty God as a working principle of your life. The end is bitter, said he. Temptation is always a disappointment. John R. Rice is now with the Lord for several years. Dr. Rice was a great evangelist, as you know, and wrote many books and published a paper, and was my friend through the years. I remember hearing him preach a sermon in Chicago in connection with a large campaign that we held there. And his sermon was this: all the devil's apples have worms. All the devil's apples have worms. That was the way he started it out. Well, what did he mean? Of course, he meant that the apple presented to you, so to speak, may look pleasant, but inside there's a worm. Well, temptation is always disappointed. Then temptation keeps you from straight thinking. Anytime you consider moral slippage of any kind, it keeps you from straight thinking. Notice verse 6, lest thou should ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable that thou canst not know them. Lest thou shouldst ponder the path of life. Keeps you from thinking straight. Whenever your mind is set on having your own way and yielding to any kind of temptation, I pointed out a moment ago that temptation, as we're talking about it here, is not simply in the realm of physical morals, but it has to do with all of the other things that poor old fallen human nature is heir to. Greed and lust and pride and envy and jealousy and gossip and dishonesty and laziness, or whatever you want to mention. In any case, when you are bent upon doing that which has been presented to you as an opportunity for evil, for disobedience, for trimming the truth, for going astray, it keeps you, by the same token, from straight thinking. A famous psychologist said once in my hearing, a guilty conscience is a deterrent to learning. Every personnel manager knows that a person whose life is out of line morally immediately suffers a decline in his productivity. It's a rule of thumb in corporate practice that you don't interfere with a person's private life unless his private life affects his production on the job. At that point, you jump in.